fewer and some wanted quite high. So yes, this is.
The developers like the idea of additional incentives.
Right.
Because it's more difficult for them to sell very low and low-income houses, so they wanted an additional incentives for that.
Okay, thank you.
Density bonus is, that section is included with other incentives. Our assumption is that the best incentive to build affordable housing is to increase the allowable density, because that will allow providers to produce more units there than they would normally be allowed to do. So we've looked at the density bonus, and we're allowing 20% for 10 to 50 units, 26 to 50 units, 25%. What?
The first one should be 10 to 20.
Oh, 10 to 25. Oop. Yes, so we better mark that. I think.
Yeah, typo there?
Yeah, typo.
Yeah. Okay.
And the next one is that the increased density can be allowed, excuse me, I'm coming down with a cold, so. For the voluntary provision of more inclusionary units, and that would be at a 1% increase of affordable units is equal to an additional 1.5 density bonus increase, up to a maximum of 35%. So that's important, because that's a real incentive to add more of those affordable units if possible. And there's a whole list of other incentives that people suggested and that were negotiated back and forth, and you can take a look at what those are.
I guess I have the most questions of anybody up here so far. So, okay. Additional incentives, item C1, expedited processing. What's the definition of that?
Well, the definition that we all came up in terms of what would be feasible would be that the board would agree to tell planning and building that affordable projects need to go to the top of the hopper, because it's very difficult for us to speed up or expedite the processing of a CEQA matter, because there are definite noticing periods and comment periods that have to be maintained. But if a project comes in and it has an inclusionary portion to it, it could be moved to the top of the hopper and not processed on a first come and first served basis, and that would be.
So it doesn't mean the actual work processes will be expedited. It means that the entire project, as it goes through its incremental elements, will just be moved to the top of the list to be addressed first.
At this point in time, if the board wanted to state something else, that's an option too.
Okay, I'm just looking for a little clarity, because
Yes.
there is a developer in the community that asked for this. We ordered it. He's come back several times saying it's still not happening, yada, yada, yada. And it's due to the process elements, not typical Mendocino County processes. Yes, okay.
Right. And I just wanted to say that's why this is worded about putting it at the front of the queue, because we wanted to acknowledge that was something that could be committed to. From experience, we're not sure that we should commit to a faster process than is actually possible.
Right, right.
And again, a lot of that comes back to the noticing requirements and public requirements for the CEQA process, which we really don't have much control over.
Absolutely. Please.
Okay. And the next section is a requirement for an inclusionary housing plan. And when a developer would come forward and want to do inclusionary in his units, he would submit a plan, and these are the discussions of what those requirements would be, how it would be reviewed, how soon planning and building needs to respond to it, and the outcome of the housing plan. So. Then the next section is the eligibility to occupy inclusionary housing units. And again, it requires that people who are going to occupy inclusionary units must be qualified either by the county or its designee. And we put that specific language in there so that people who actually do qualify, low-income folks like RCHDC, CDC, could be designated to do that for us because we don't have that capability necessarily, and we don't know if we want to. There's a provision in there, however, that if a qualified buyer cannot be found within a 90-day period, and originally that was quite a discussion item. There were folks that wanted 30 days. There were other folks, RCHDC said there's no way we can qualify people in 30 days. So it was agreed on for 90 days at that point. And at that point, then the owner of the house, which at that point would be the developer, would be able to sell the house at market rate, and there's a provision for equity sharing on that. Then the equity sharing section, this is developed so that, and the idea and purpose behind this is that when people buy an inclusionary unit at the low income level or the very low income level, we would like to maintain that as an affordable unit